It's good to be with you, many of you for the second time in as many days. Friends, there was a moment in each one of our lives when nobody knew that we existed. There was a point in each one of our lives in which not even our own mothers knew that we were around yet. Everyone was unaware of our existence. Nobody knew that we were already given the gift of life. Nobody knew this except for God. And I think this actually gets us into a deep insight about who we are and who God is. That from the very beginning of your life, when you were as of yet a complete mystery to everyone else, God knew you. Psalm 139 in the Old Testament speaks to this. There the psalmist writes that in your mother's womb I formed you, and I counted every single one of your days. And as God saw us, He loved us. God's knowledge and His sight of us is not that He's against us or that He's looking out over us to see if we're having any fun so He can ruin it. No, God sees us and He loves us. Today we celebrate the feast of the Immaculate Conception of Mary. What we celebrate today is that from the very first moment of her life, from the very beginning, from her conception, God had saved her from any stain of sin because He knew the plan that He had in mind for her. That she would be invited into His process, His act of salvation, that she would become the mother of His Son, Jesus. And so He prepared her from the very beginning for this great task. And there are many different names that we as Catholics have for Mary. And everything that we say about Mary, everything we believe about Mary is because of what we believe about Jesus. So we call Mary the Mother of God because she was mother of Jesus. He was true man, but true God. We call her the Blessed Virgin not because of the way all of us are given a life that it's bad. No, she's Blessed Virgin because Jesus comes straight from heaven through her. She's Mother of the Church because as He hung on the cross, Mary entrusted us to her. Behold your mother, He spoke to John. And today we celebrate another name of Mary, Immaculate Mary. Immaculate Mary. And this name of Mary we actually just heard in our gospel, though it was in slightly different language. When the archangel Gabriel comes to Mary, he comes with that greeting, "Hail, full of grace." Hail, full of grace. And those words, full of grace, if we could read it or hear it in the original language that Luke wrote it in, we would see something much deeper than what we get in the English. We would get a word that was written in kind of a crazy grammar, a crazy tense, but that's actually in the form of a name that translates, "She who has already been fully filled with grace," which is a heck of a name. But that was the name that the Archangel Gabriel was giving Mary there. In fact, this was the name that God had in mind for Mary from the very first moment of her existence. Mary, you are already fully filled with grace. What does that mean? That Mary is immaculate, that she has been completely prepared for the task and the mission that God was inviting her into. As the Lord invites her into this task, He's saying, "I will never call you anywhere where I myself am not going to lead you." So in this moment, Mary's truest identity as being fully filled with grace already is being made clear to her. That God has prepared her. That God is with her. That God has already thought of how he wants to use her. This great plan he has had from the first moment of her life is now becoming clear to her. That's who Mary is. That's her truest identity. But what were everybody else seeing? What would everybody else see when they saw Mary? They would see a 15 or a 16-year-old girl. They would see someone on the lowest rung on the social ladder with no economic status. They would see a girl from a country town of Nazareth without any of the resources that the big city could give her. They would see a pregnant teenager who was about to scandalize an entire village of people. They would see a young woman in a world that was pretty much only run by men. But what's more important? What God sees in Mary, or what other people see? And for each and every one of us, how often do we compare our insides to other people's outsides? And how often do we start to think about, how do I measure up? What do I have or what do I not have? And I start to view myself in terms of my failures or my shortcomings or my weaknesses. But in those moments, what's more important, the person that God sees or the person that other people are seeing, or so they think? Friends, today, the great gift of this feast is it is a remembrance for each and every one of us. That just as God had a plan for Mary in mind from the first moments of her life and prepared her for that plan, so in God's mind, too, there is a plan and a vision and a mission for each and every one of us that with God's grace, he has prepared us for. And the most important thing that each and every one of us can do is say yes to that plan, to allow ourselves to be fully seen, known, and loved by God. We got the story from the first page of the Bible today. After Adam and Eve fell into sin, what did we hear? Adam said, "I hid myself from you, Lord." Why? Because I was ashamed, because I was afraid of what you might do to me. The great gift of Mary is that she never hid from God, that she allowed herself to be fully seen by him. In praying with our gospel today, that scene of the Annunciation, I've always wondered, what was Mary doing? What was she doing when the Archangel Gabriel came with this message from God? And I don't mean too much by this, but in my mind, I always imagined that she was sweeping. I always imagined she was just sweeping the floor. But Mary was attentive. She was aware to God's presence and action in her life because she never hid from him. And so, friends, today, let us seek to never hide ourselves from him either. Let us allow ourselves to be fully seen, known, and loved by the God who has known us from the first moments of our life, so that we might not only know that the plan that he has for our life, that we might not only become aware of how it is he's seeking to lead us, but then that we might know that he's prepared us for it, that filled with his grace, we, like Mary, might be able to accomplish that which he invites us into.